Hello, hello everybody, good morning. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming here this morning for the launch of the Liberal Democrats' General Election Manifesto. This is a really exciting moment for our party, and it's the culmination of an enormous amount of hard work over many years, making sure that we've got the right policies in place for the challenges our country faces after years of Conservative chaos, making sure those policies are fully costed, and crucially, making sure that the sums add up. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Dick Newby, who has chaired the Manifesto Working Group, and all the members of that group, and the members of our Federal Policy Committee, for the hard work that they've put in to ensure that we candidates have got the best possible manifesto to stand on at this election. So allow me now to introduce you to the man who's going to be leading that fight for a fair deal. He's taken a break from his adrenaline-fueled extreme sports tour of the UK to come and speak to you today. Our paddle boarding, water sliding, blue wall destroyer-in-chief, leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey.
Thank you, Munira, for that kind introduction. Munira is a fantastic local champion for the people of Twickenham and a tireless leader on improving our education system and providing real support and opportunities to children and young people. Munira, I'm so proud to call you a colleague and a friend. Thank you. And thank you all for coming here today to help me unveil the Liberal Democrat Manifesto. It has been an intense couple of weeks, finalising this 114-page document, packed full of detailed policies, all of them carefully costed. Now, of course, I've needed the occasional break, but when I asked my campaign team to find the odd activity to help me unwind, I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. It has been quite something to be told by my team that I've become a bit of a meme on social media. And can I just say to those who have suggested that my next campaign stop should be wrestling a crocodile or being fired out of a cannon, please stop giving my campaign team these ideas. They really don't need any encouragement, believe me. What has been truly overwhelming over the past week or so have been the incredible messages I've received from people who've heard me talking about my experiences, caring for my mum when I was a teenager, and as Emily and I care for our wonderful son, John, today. Really humbling messages from people across the political spectrum and outside of politics altogether, welcoming our focus on care and carers. The most touching messages of all have come from other carers, people looking after their loved ones, who've got in touch to say, that's my story too. To say how refreshing it is after so long feeling forgotten and ignored by people in power, to hear a politician talking about these issues from personal experience. Your message just means so much to me. That's exactly why I've been telling my caring story. Because it's not just my story. It's the story of millions of people across our United Kingdom, looking after loved ones, making sacrifices, find it exhausting sometimes, but also full of love. Caring has been in the shadows for far too long, and I am proud that as a party we have brought it into the light. Like so many people, my caring story started young. I was 9 when my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. My dad had died when I was 4, taken from us just a few months after being diagnosed with a cancer called Hodgkin lymphoma. So it was just my mum, my 2 brothers, and me. She battled the cancer for years. But when I was 12, it spread to her bones, and the doctors told her it was incurable. In the last 18 months or so, her pain was excruciating. She was confined to her bed, and caring for her became my life, before school and after school, giving her morphine for the pain, helping her on and off the toilet, sitting on her bed for hours, just talking to her, trying to make the most of every minute. And I was 15 when it finally took her, visiting her on a totally unsuitable dementia ward in my school uniform when she died. Now, I never called myself a young carer. I never thought of myself that way. I was just looking after my mum because she needed it and because I loved her. And in these last few years, I've been privileged to meet many young carers from all over the country, and I hear the same thing from them. Now, all of their stories are very different, and yet, in so many ways, they are also the same. Whether it was the young woman who told me how hard it had been to concentrate at school after nights spent looking after her dad, or the girl who said she sometimes feels like nothing but a carer. I know how that can feel. And similarly, when I speak to parents looking after disabled children, or people caring for a parent or a partner who is ill or frail, I hear echoes of my own experiences caring for John. How close it makes you. What a special bond you share. But also how relentless it can feel. Physical challenges, the lack of a break, all the paperwork, the appointments, the phone calls, how often it can feel like no one understands. And how much of a difference just a little extra support can make. And these are the experiences that we must bring out of the shadows. Because the truth is that unless we properly value care, unless we properly support carers, we will never be able to fix the crisis in our NHS or get our economy back on track. And that's why I'm so proud that the Liberal Democrats have put health and care at the heart of our campaign in this general election, and at the heart of our manifesto too. Because there is no doubt that both the NHS and care are in crisis. More than 6 million people stuck on hospital waiting lists. People are waiting hours in pain for an ambulance to arrive, or weeks to see a GP or an NHS dentist, if they can even find one. Tens of thousands of cancer patients are waiting months to start urgent treatment. Months! When every day could make all the difference. Hospital roofs are literally crumbling, and the Conservatives have broken their promise to build 40 new ones. Talk to anyone in the NHS and they will tell you a major cause of the crisis in our health service is the crisis in social care. Right now there are thousands of people stuck in hospital beds well enough to be discharged but unable to leave because the care they need at home or in a care home simply isn't there. After years of Conservative chaos and neglect, the scale of the challenge is enormous. So our manifesto doesn't shy away from that. We are putting forward a bold, ambitious and fully costed plan to tackle the health and care crisis from top to bottom. This is a manifesto to save the NHS. giving everyone the right to see a GP within 7 days or within 24 hours if it's urgent, and recruiting the extra doctors needed to make it happen. Improving access to dentists and pharmacists too, because we understand that if more people can get the early care they need locally, fewer people will end up in hospital in the first place. Giving cancer patients the care they deserve with a cast-iron guarantee that they will start treatment within 2 months. And investing in radiotherapy machines, in more cancer nurses, and in cancer research to find the next breakthrough treatments. Finally, treating mental health on an equal footing with physical health, with new mental health hubs for young people, regular mental health checkups when people need them, and a dedicated, qualified mental health professional in every school. Investing in public health, because we know that it's far better and far cheaper to prevent illness than it is to treat it. And on care. We have an equally bold plan to make sure everyone gets the support they need. People who need care, the amazing care workers who provide it, and the unpaid family carers who provide it too. So, we will introduce free personal care, embodying the same principles that underpin our NHS, where care is provided based on need, not on ability to pay. We will value care workers properly and help to fill the more than 150,000 vacancies in social care by introducing a new, higher minimum wage, especially for care workers, and setting up a new Royal College of Care Workers. And we will give family carers a fair deal, starting by overhauling the broken carers allowance system so that it provides real financial support to those who need it. Just imagine what this would all mean for people across our country. Instead of being stuck in an overcrowded hospital ward, thousands of people could come home to be cared for by their family, with both the professional carers and the financial support they need to make it work. We can transform cancer care and boost survival rates to among the best in the world. We can help people live more years of their lives in good health with all the benefits that that brings with it. We can make sure everyone can see a doctor or dentist locally when they need one, ending these appallingly long waiting times, taking the pressure off the rest of the NHS. We can get people off waiting lists and into work, getting our economy growing strongly again too. We can save our NHS. We can fix the care crisis. We can give people a fair deal. Now, I know when you look at the state of the NHS and care today, this might all seem a long way off. And there's no doubt that it will take a lot of time and a lot of hard work to repair the terrible damage the Conservatives have done over so many years. But our manifesto sets out how it can be achieved. And Liberal Democrat candidates across the country are ready and able to work tirelessly to achieve it. So every vote for the Liberal Democrats at this election is a vote to elect a strong local champion who will fight every day for the NHS and care. I'm truly proud of the focus our manifesto puts on these issues. As a carer for most of my life, this is personal for me, and having met so many wonderful carers as I travel across our United Kingdom, I know it's personal for millions of people. Let me just mention one other policy in our manifesto that means a lot to me personally. Restoring proper bereavement support for parents whose partners have died. You see, I remember how important the widow's pension was for my mum after my dad had died. I remember going for a walk with her and our dog every fortnight to collect it. We weren't especially hard up, but it made a difference. It meant something. So you can imagine how angry I was when the Conservatives cut that support back in 2017. Knowing that other families like mine would only get a fraction of the support. It was the first thing I asked Boris Johnson about at PMQs when I became leader. And I am proud that in this manifesto we commit to reversing those cuts and restoring proper support payments to parents like my mum. There's so much more I'm proud of in our manifesto. Our clear plan to end the scandal of raw sewage being dumped into our rivers and onto our beaches, and to hold the water companies to account for the damage they've done. Our policies to solve the cost of living crisis for the long term. From an emergency home energy upgrade programme to cut people's energy bills, to a national food strategy including free school meals. Our commitment to restoring proper community policing and guarantee that every burglary will be attended by the police and investigated, so that everyone can feel safe in their own homes and walking down their own streets. Fixing our broken relationship with Europe. Rebuilding the ties of trade and friendship. Boosting our economy and restoring Britain's role on the world stage. All these and more are crucial for delivering the fair deal that British people deserve. And they are what every Liberal Democrat MP elected on the 4th of July will be fighting for in the next Parliament. But if we are truly to tackle the big challenges facing our country, from health to the environment, crime to the cost of living, there is one more part of our manifesto that is absolutely critical. Our policies to transform the nature of British politics itself. Ending first past the post and replacing it with fair votes through proportional representation. Getting big money out of politics with a cap on donations to political parties. Shifting power out of the centre so local decisions are made by and for the people and communities they affect. Putting real power in people's hands and holding the overpowerful properly to account. Because this election has to be more than just a change of government. We must do more than get the Conservatives out, essential though that is. We must transform our politics for good. So politicians have to respond to people's dreams and desires. Because that is the only way we will bring the real change our country needs. It's the only way we will deliver a fair deal. A fair deal where everyone can afford a decent home, somewhere safe and clean, with a comfortable retirement when the time comes. Where every child can go to a good school and have real opportunities to fulfill their potential. Where everyone can get the high-quality healthcare they need, when they need it, and where they need it. That is the fair deal that runs throughout our manifesto. That is the fair deal that Liberal Democrats are fighting for. And at this election, every vote for the Liberal Democrats is a vote to make that fair deal happen. Thank you. thank you. Now I think there's time for a few questions. But he's the man in charge.
Vicky Young, BBC News. Grabbing attention by throwing yourself down water slides is one thing, but when things get serious after the election, what influence can the Liberal Democrats realistically expect to have on government policy?
Well, thank you, Vicky, for that question. By the way, I do believe that politicians shouldn't take themselves too seriously. What we should do is take the interests of the British people seriously. And this manifesto and the Liberal Democrats do that. And if you vote for Liberal Democrat MPs in the next Parliament, we can have a strong Liberal voice pushing for these policies. And in my experience in Parliament, if you get lots of great Liberal Democrat MPs, you can make a huge difference. You can make a huge difference for your community, electing a local champion who's going to campaign for your community, not forget where their voters are. Liberal Democrats have got a proud record of being great local champions. And if we elect many more, there'll be so many more local champions in Parliament. But also, affecting the big issues of the day. If you have lots of Liberal Democrat MPs, we will start winning those debates. What I'm so proud of in this manifesto, which is fully costed, I think it's already influencing the debate in this election campaign. And I know with lots of Liberal Democrat MPs elected, we will affect the debate in the next Parliament and change the course of our country and get the real change our country desperately needs.
Chloe Keedy, ITV News. The last time the Liberal Democrats launched a manifesto stopping Brexit was front and centre. It isn't even mentioned in this one until page 112, the penultimate page, where you say that it is one of your party's objectives to rejoin the EU. Can you clarify for voters whether that is something you would seek to do in the next Parliament?
Thank you very much, Chloe. We've made clear time and again that we are a pro-European party who believe that our country's interests are best served by working with other countries in the mutual benefit. And as we say on that page, we believe in the long term we need to be back at the heart of Europe. But we're being really clear that we're not going to pretend that's going to be easy. Regrettably, the Conservative Party have so poisoned Britain's relationship with our nearest neighbours, our allies. They've undermined trust. And when I speak to European politicians, regrettably, they don't trust the United Kingdom anymore. And how sad is that? And so we've talked to people across the UK, listened to them on this issue. We've talked to people across Europe, particularly politicians, about what is achievable. And it's clear you're going to have a step-by-step approach to rebuild that trust, rebuild that relationship. But I believe quite quickly you get a much better trade deal than the dreadful trade deal that Boris Johnson got. That would really help our economy. It would help small business exporting. It would help farmers. It would help fishermen. It would, I think, ultimately reduce prices in the shops. I think, getting a really good trade deal would be an absolute priority. Then, allowing young people to be more mobile across Europe. There are lots of things set out in the manifesto about how we could begin to rebuild that relationship, all going in a really clear direction. But it's going to take time, regrettably, because the Conservatives have done such damage.
Thank you, Ed Davey. Sam Coates, Sky News. You talked about care and your experience with care. But all the indicators are that we are heading towards a big Labour majority. What makes you think that the ideas in this manifesto will have any impact on the next 5 years? What does success look like when it comes to policy?
Well, success, first of all, results in lots of Liberal Democrat MPs getting elected. And I hope you don't mind, Sam, I want the British people to take a chance on us. Right? And I want them to see that we've got great ideas, great candidates, and the more of us they vote for, the more we can get real change. Because we are the party really offering change, whether it's on a political system or on health and care. We have the most ambitious health and care package of any party. And what I'd say to anyone in any other party, just look at this. Look at how we're paying for it, look at how we've costed it, look at the detail. And talk to people in the health service and in care. Because I've done, and they really like these ideas. They think they add up, and they think they would make a huge difference, whether it's investing in primary care, GPs, NHS dentists, community pharmacists, so people don't have to go to hospital, or investing in care, whether it's formal social care or family care, so people can come out of hospital more quickly or don't end up going to hospital so much. This is a way which could transform it. And the reason why I think others will start looking at this idea seriously is because it's right, because it's well thought through. And you know what? I'm hoping someone's going to ask me about the costings in a minute, because I've gone through, I've gone through the detail, and we're really, really cautious because in these costings, we haven't done what some of the experts have advised us to do, which is to include the savings we'll get. So, free personal care, according to the Institute of Public Policy Research, by the end of the decade, will be reaping possibly up to £3 billion a year in savings to the NHS. We haven't included that in our costings because we're being cautious. But what it does show to the next Parliament, MPs of all parties, that you take this approach and we can save our NHS. I mean, that's so important. I am sick and tired of Tory MPs sort of saying they've sorted it out and then meeting people across the country who can't get a GP appointment, who've waited for hours for an ambulance, who can't find an NHS dentist. There was an NHS dentist in my constituency in Chessington who told me when I went to visit them that they'd had to look after a pregnant woman from Cornwall who couldn't find an NHS dentist except in Chessington. This is the state of our NHS under the Tories, and we are going to reform it, and we have the ideas, and elections should be about ideas, and we've got the best ones.
I was waiting for the applause to come down there. Morning, Fred. Paul McNamara, Channel 4 News. You're the leader of a party that wants a closer relationship with Europe. Are you worried that you're fighting for further integration with a Europe in which voters over the weekend have given a clear message that they want the opposite?
Well, I don't know how you interpret the results. The way I would ultimately interpret the results is people across Europe and in this country are pretty unhappy. They want change. And we want change too, because we're unhappy. We think the Conservatives have made a mess of our economy, of our health service, and people want change. But in this country, people have got a party called the Liberal Democrats who've got some serious, sensible, costed policies that will bring that change. And in terms of getting a better relationship with Europe, whatever the make of the European Parliament, I think just makes sense. Just makes sense. I've spoken to business people who say they can't afford to export anymore because of the Conservatives' trade deal. They've given up. How sad is that? It's undermined our growth. I've spoken to pharmacists who can't get the medicines that people in their community want because of problems with trade on pharmaceuticals. I think it's pretty clear now that the Tories' deal with Europe has been a disaster for our country. And so I'm a tough negotiator. And I would negotiate for our country, for the best for our country, the best for our people. But I know that what the Conservatives delivered is the worst for our people.
Hi, it's Peter Walker from the Guardian. Sorry, I'm trying to not drop my laptop as I stand up. The policy that came out overnight about the idea of reforming capital gains tax, and I guess there's a question in two parts. Is this in some way a kind of challenge to other parties to have tax plans which you think would actually work? And it's essentially because it's targeting mainly wealthier people. It's kind of almost a wealth tax. Is that slightly a challenge to Labour to try and potentially do something on that too?
Thank you, Peter. Listen, our whole manifesto is a challenge to other parties, whether it's on healthcare, whether it's on tax, whether it's making your numbers stand up. One of the reasons why we've costed this really, really carefully and show where we can get the money, because I think voters are disillusioned. I think they don't trust politicians or political parties anymore. And, you know, part of our attempt over the last few years, listening to people, trying to understand them, making sure they know that we will represent their community with strong local champions, is all about rebuilding that trust. One of the reasons why we want to reform our broken political system is to rebuild that trust. And the Costa Manifesto is about that. And the CGT issue, we think, it is only right that the very, very, very wealthiest in our country pay more tax. The CGT system at the moment is unfair for some of the people who pay it. And so our reforms would actually reduce the capital gains tax bill paid by most of the people who pay capital gains tax at the moment. We're bringing in a higher allowance. Crucially, we're bringing in an inflation indexation allowance. We're going to have a small business relief. So a lot of people who currently pay capital gains tax and the Tories wouldn't pay it under these proposals. But the Tories are letting off from paying CGT, the right level of CGT, people who are really, really wealthy. We're talking about billionaires, we're talking about multi-millionaires. And they're paying a lower rate of tax on their capital gains than many of the people they employ are paying an income tax. That is just unfair. And when our public services are crying out for money, our health service, our schools, our police force, we've got to find the money from somewhere. And the Conservatives have increased taxes on ordinary people, ordinary families, pensioners, so much. So, I mean, to record levels. The Tories are the party of tax rises, right? And they have increased taxes so much that in a cost of living crisis, we're not going to do that. But I have to say, the 0.1% of people who would pay this higher corporation taxes, let's be clear, if you get over £100,000 a year in capital gains, over £100,000 a year in capital gains, you pay 45% on those capital gains. That's what we're talking about. And I think they should. Other people who are earning income above that pay that rate. Why shouldn't people getting capital gains just because they're billionaires? Why are they excluded from paying their fair share of tax? So, you know, I think it's the right thing to do. It ensures we make our numbers up. I'm very happy to take people through the details. I sort of already started doing that, haven't I? Sorry, I'm geeking out now. But I think it's a reform that is desperately needed.
Kate McCann from Times Radio. You want to talk about costings, so let's talk about some specifics. I've had a quick flick through this manifesto. You want to end the two-child benefit limit. How will you pay for that? You're promising to double statutory maternity and paternity pay to £350 a week. How will you pay for that? How will you pay compensation to women over pensions, the WASPy women? Where will the cash come from for that? Those are just a few things. There are many, many more. And what do you say directly to the IFS who say that you will not be able to raise some of the billions of pounds that you say you will, that it's unrealistic?
Well, thank you for your question, Kate. I'm happy to take everyone through these, and our team are. We've worked on these for quite some time now, using the best sources for our figures we possibly could, including the IFS, actually, in some places. I'm really happy to meet the IFS and take them through our figures. That's not a problem. And if you look at the costings document, which I think is now available, someone can tell me, is it available online? We're not hiding it. You can see all the figures and all the answers to your questions. Essentially what we're doing is raising taxes mainly on the big banks, the oil and gas companies, the social media giants and also the likes of Google and Amazon, the 0.1% wealthiest people I just talked about. So all that tax revenue is set out there, and we're spending it, I think, wisely. We're often spending it in areas that would save money in the longer term, which is good housekeeping. We've not seen that for many years. So I think when you see that costing document, hopefully all your questions will be answered. If they're not, please come back to us, because we really want to make this a big point in this election, frankly. We think there are political parties out there who are really not telling the truth about how they're funding their policies. And I think we need to expose that. And I'm happy to take the IFS through it. Yeah. Well, they're certainly ambitious. I think we can achieve them. And one of the reasons why I think we can achieve them is in every area. Take capital gains tax, for example. If you look to the numbers of what the various experts say we would raise from our policies, the numbers are higher than what we've put in our costings, because we've taken account of behavioural change, and in a number of areas we've deliberately done that to be very cautious on our costings. And I will challenge anyone, particularly in the other parties, about whether they've had the cautious approach that we've taken.
Chris Hope, GB News, Ed Davey. This is a detailed manifesto, no question. But what's the point of voting for the Liberal Democrats when you're not going to win? Your best get is maybe 50 MPs when Labour are going to storm to victory, according to the polls. And just on Brexit, the goal here is single market, rejoining that. When will that happen by? And is the ultimate goal rejoining the European Union?
Well, thank you, Chris. If you vote Liberal Democrat, you get lots of local Liberal Democrat champions as your MP. I hope the whole country votes for these wonderful people. And if we did, we'd transform our politics. And, you know, you seem to know the outcome of the election. I mean, I'm really impressed. I don't. It's all up for grabs. I put no ambitions on the ceiling. I'm realistic about our unfair voting system. And so I have said throughout this campaign that there are many parts of the country where only a vote for the Liberal Democrats can beat the Conservatives. Across the blue wall in the home counties, I'll take you through all the home counties, you know, Hampshire and Hertfordshire, Surrey and Sussex, Oxford and Cambridgeshire. Have I missed out a few places where we're going to win? I'm sure we have. So the blue wall, we're going to smash that down and take lots of seats off the Conservatives. In the West Country, where, you know, we've been strong in the past, we're coming back in the West Country. And there are parts of Greater Manchester, rural mid-Wales, parts of Scotland we're going to take on the SNP, parts of Yorkshire. You know, we actually are the only ones who can beat the Conservatives in so many seats. So what's been exciting about this election campaign is when people have heard from us, and I really hope they hear about these policies, particularly our plan to rescue our NHS today. When they hear them and they see our great champions, they'll come and back us. And if you back the Liberal Democrats on the 4th of July, yes, you'll get a local champion, but you'll get people who are going to go into Parliament to fight for real change, to sort out the sewage scandal. So the Liberal Democrats were the first to raise that. I haven't heard much from other parties. So you want to sort out the sewage scandal, vote Liberal Democrat. I'll come to the Europe bit in a minute. Don't worry. But there's a lot of things in this manifesto which are totally distinctive. If you want this ambitious programme of change, you've got to vote Liberal Democrat. You won't get it from anyone else. And on Europe, I mean, Chris, we couldn't have been clearer. I've already answered it a few times. Very happy to answer it again. We are the most pro-European party in British politics. We're proud of that. We believe serious government works with your neighbours, whether it's your friends, and things that are mutually beneficial, whether it's trade, whether it's tackling international trafficking gangs, whether it's tackling climate change. All these issues are international. And you should work with your partners. And, you know, the fact that Conservatives won't is a betrayal of our country. I'm proud of our country. I'm a patriot. And there are some people in the Conservative Party who have undermined my country, our country. And that, I get angry about that. That's wrong. They've misled people. So no, you can't have a time, I'm afraid. That's just being frank with you, because you've got to rebuild that relationship. It's going to take time, unfortunately, but it is going to take time. We've got to take the British people with us. We've got to show the benefits, and we will do that.
Hi, sorry. Emilio from Politico. Lots of evidence shows that one of the big themes for the voters at this election is just disillusionment and lack of trust and just sick of politicians, what they say at elections versus what they do. How much responsibility do the Lib Dems need to take for that, considering the coalition and obviously the big thing being the student fees thing? And to what extent have you kept that in mind while writing this manifesto, so that you don't end up in the same position where if you accidentally end up in government by mistake in some coalition, you have to ditch big things that you've promised to disappoint people again?
Well, listen, let me just take that straight on, Emilio. You know, we fought the Conservatives every day, but we didn't win everything, and we paid a price for that. I lost my seat. We've had 3 bad election results because I think people, you know, wanted to punish us for that, right? But actually, when I became the leader, I said we needed to wake up and smell the coffee, and we need to listen to people. We need to go out into communities and talk to them and hear what their concerns were and make sure that anything we promised was realistic and could be delivered. And it's been an iron discipline we've imposed on the party. You know, the party's willingly taken it. Because we've seen the disaster of the Conservatives, and we wanted to make sure that the British people had a real choice of people who could bring the change that they so crave. And so it's been a long, long time since I took over. We've been working very, very hard. Been looking forward today to tell you all about the hard work, whether it's the costings to make sure that people realise actually we've made our sums add up, or whether it's our core policies in this election. So I just say to people, I understand why you're disillusioned in politics. I get it, really get it. And one of the reasons I've talked about being a carer is I meet millions of people who think they've been forgotten. They feel disillusioned. And I want to tell them that I get it. And we've crafted policies that are based on the real lives of people, not on some think tank over here, but the real lives. And I think if people look at what we're saying, I think they'll see their lives reflected in our priorities, and I hope they do. And hopefully we can bridge that gap that happened in the past.
Hi, Will Durham with PA. We've spoken a lot about tax, and there's a lot in there, whether that's to aviation and the reforms around that, but also the capital gains tax. You're all targeting voters in the blue wall who might work in the city. Is this going to harm that vote at all?
Well, the vast majority of people who pay capital gains tax are going to get a tax cut. So, it's not that I ever take leaves out of the Conservative book, because we have ours properly costed, right? But this is a tax cut for the vast majority of them. So I think, when they read the detail, I'm sure everyone's going to set out all the detail. The fact that we've got an increased allowance for people, that we've got a small business relief, that we're introducing a new inflation allowance, which will take away the capital gain for most people, because a lot of it's inflation. If you take that away, as it used to happen, it will mean that huge numbers of people who currently pay capital gains tax won't pay it. Let's remember, only 0.9% of people pay capital gains tax at the moment. So over 99% of people don't pay capital gains tax. But of those 1% who do, or 0.9% who do, most of them will get a tax cut. And really happy to take you through the figures. We thought about it a long time, take a lot of advice from people. We think it's the right way, the fair way, to raise the money that we need for our public services. I'm worried about our voters in the blue wall, and I want to make sure they know, through people like yourself, they're getting a CGT tax cut.
Nick Watt, BBC Newsnight. Can I take you back to your favourite subject, which is the European Union? Which, if I've read the manifesto correctly, you're talking about a journey. Phase 1 is a more constructive relationship with the EU. Another phase is single market membership, and another phase eventually could be that we rejoin. That seems to suggest that you take us into the economic architecture, the single market, before going into the political architecture, which is membership. I thought your view was always there's no point in separating the two. Because you know what single membership market means. It means accepting free movement. It means accepting rules. It means being a rule taker. So are you saying that we would go into the single market as a rule taker before we have a chance of being a rule maker as a member?
Well, thank you very much for that question, because it enables me to clarify a little bit more for you and the viewers. First of all, you were getting a little bit ahead of yourself. This is going to take time. And actually, we've got 4 steps that we've set out, 4 stages, before we can get into the single market. And that could take some time. I don't know how long that will be. And it will start not with a trade deal based on the single market, but a trade deal based on what the European Union and ourselves can agree, which would be way better than the disastrous deal that Johnson agreed to. So we can get quite a lot of benefit to start off with. But on your point on rule taker, we're a rule taker now. We're a rule taker now. You know, the Conservatives tried to make out that, you know, they'd somehow got out of that. They hadn't. They hadn't. You know, not for once, they've not quite told the full truth. And so, you know, I think our approach would actually give us much more influence than the Conservatives have had. The Conservatives have got no influence whatsoever. We'd be far more influential. We take it in a carefully thoughtful way, because I think that's the only way we'll build back their trust. And you know, you mentioned free movement. We're actually quite keen to the proposal that's been discussed about 18 to 30-year-olds. You know, our young people should have some freedom. Our young people should have some freedom. And that's set out in the manifesto as one of our steps to building back the relationship. I'm getting that sign that tells me that I've got to get moving. And what I would say to you is, first of all, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions. Do come back to us with any follow-ups. Really keen to answer all your questions. But I've been told that an election is a roller coaster. So I'm going to go on a roller coaster. Thank you.